I don't get why people act like complicated problems need complicated solutions. Like, just because something is coded in high-tech paint and has a dozen acronyms slapped on it doesn't mean it needs a whiteboard full of formulas and a team of 12 squinting at it like it's a space launch. Sometimes it's just stuck, or gunked, or worse, put together by people who never actually touched the thing in real life. That's pretty much how this story starts. It started on a Tuesday because of course it did. Tuesdays are like Monday's smug cousins. You're already tired, but you're not far enough into the week to give up completely. Somewhere at a military testing facility outside Yuma, Arizona, a $9.4 million modern tank sat in a concrete hangar like an angry brick, completely useless. Not because it was shot or bombed. No, no. This beast, with its infrared sensors, radar interfacing targeting systems, and armor that could probably take a punch from a comet, had a bad engine startup. And not just a bad startup. It groaned, clicked, choked, flashed a dozen red lights on the HUD, and then did that pathetic wee sound like a dying refrigerator. Not ideal when you're demoing it for a bunch of three-star generals and one very unamused congresswoman who didn't even take off her sunglasses inside. They'd brought in the best. Engineers from the private contractor, Defense Tech Systems in their crisp polos and steel-toe boots, Navy consultants, two German specialists who spoke English only when they were extremely annoyed. They poked, reprogrammed, swapped parts, ran diagnostics. 3 days later, same wheeze, same red lights. One engineer straight up had a breakdown, muttering about electromagnetic voodoo while being escorted out holding a half-eaten granola bar. That's when General Marquez made the call, and that's where Sam comes in. Sam Myers was what people in the Army called old school. Not because he was ancient, he was 52, walked with a bit of a limp from his third deployment, and still did 40 push-ups before his morning coffee, but because he fixed things. Actually fixed them. With his hands, tools, and an attitude that could sand paint off a wall. He retired 4 years ago, moved to Colorado, grew tomatoes, had a German shepherd named Boomer and a truck that ran not because it should, but because Sam talked to it like it owed him rent. When the call came in, he didn't say yes right away. Why the hell would I fly to Arizona to fix a toy tank some Ivy League intern coded into a coma? He asked, stirring his coffee like it had insulted him. General Marquez, to her credit, didn't flinch. Because it's not just a tank. It's supposed to replace an entire armored division's fleet. And because the damn thing won't move, Congress might scrap the funding. And what makes you think I can fix what a room full of overpaid diploma jockeys can't? There was a pause. Because I remember that time in Kandahar when a drone caught fire midair, and you got it flying again with a bag of ice, duct tape, and your boot. Sam sighed. Boomer barked. 3 days later, he was on a military charter flight to Yuma. Now, Sam wasn't exactly the man people expected when the black SUV rolled up to the base. He wasn't in uniform. He wore a faded AC/DC t-shirt, jeans, and a leather tool belt like he was about to fix someone's sink, not resurrect a war machine. His salt and pepper beard made him look like he taught high school shop class, or like he'd yell at you for putting the wrong oil in your engine. The engineers didn't know what to do with him. Mr. Myers, we've already tried a full systems diagnostic, one said, clipboard clutched like a holy book. It's an architecture-level failure between the hybrid propulsion override and the SHH. Sam held up a hand and walked past them, straight to the tank. It loomed in the hangar like something out of a sci-fi movie. Clean lines, matte black paint, bristling with sensors. A beast. And yet it just sat there, sad and silent. Sam put a hand on the side of it like he was greeting a horse. All right, you oversized paperweight. Let's see what's got your shorts in a knot. No clipboard, no laptop, just a beat-up red toolbox and a flashlight. First, he crawled under it. Spent a good 15 minutes under there, occasionally muttering things like, Who the hell thought that was a good place for a connector, and idiots, all of them. Then he opened the hatch, climbed inside the driver's seat, and stared at the controls. "Hey," he called out to one of the engineers. "What the hell does the button with the squirrel icon do? That's not a squirrel. It's a stylized thermal bypass emblem. Looks like a squirrel." He flipped it. Lights flickered. The same groan came from the engine bay. "Ah, there's your problem. You found it?" "No." Just felt like saying that. Makes people nervous. General Marquez watched all this from a metal folding chair, sipping terrible coffee. She wasn't the kind of officer who interrupted. She'd seen Sam work before. By nightfall, Sam had disassembled the primary converter housing, which apparently had a proprietary screw head that required a defense tech modular torque key, which none of the engineers could find. Sam used a flattened spoon. The real twist came when he pulled out a blackened, warped chunk of plastic and metal that smelled vaguely like burnt toast and rage. "What the hell is this?" he asked. One of the engineers peered over. "That's the relay junction interface for the magnetic drive coil." "Yeah." "Well, it's melted into modern art. That might explain your power loss. What's supposed to cool it?" The engineer blinked. "The auxiliary coolant loop from the secondary." "Stop. Just stop." Sam turned to Marquez. "This thing was built backwards." "What do you mean?" "I mean someone designed a $9 million tank, powered it with an electric hybrid system, added fail-safes out the wazoo, but routed the main power relay next to the exhaust manifold of a backup diesel turbine. It cooks itself every time the system switches modes." Silence. "You're saying it's not a glitch?" "Nope. It's cooked spaghetti. You ever see a thermostat installed behind an oven? Because that's what they did here. This thing's been baking its own guts every time they run a systems check." The German engineers looked vaguely offended. One took off his glasses and whispered, "Mein Gott." "So, can you fix it?" Sam looked at the tank, then at his toolbox, then back at Marquez. "I'll need some parts, a lot of zip ties, and a six-pack of decent beer, not that crap in the mess hall." And just like that, the resurrection began. Sam didn't get his six-pack of decent beer. He got 2 lukewarm bottles of off-brand lager and a disapproving look from a quartermaster who clearly hadn't laughed since the Bush administration. But Sam had zip ties, duct tape, a roll of copper wire he wasn't supposed to have, and the stubborn optimism of a man who once used a coffee pot to patch a helicopter fuel line. Day 2 began with a hiss, quite literally, as he disconnected what he called the spaghetti junction of nonsense inside the tank's engine bay. The engineers hovered, note-taking like graduate students who didn't dare interrupt the guest lecturer. "I swear," he muttered, twisting a stubborn bolt, "whoever designed this either hated tanks or got paid by the hour." Actually, the propulsion system was adapted from a naval drone platform, one engineer said. Sam didn't even look up. "You mean something that never had to roll over a rock or take a hill?" "Yeah, that tracks." He pulled out a thermal shield that was somehow made of a polymer that melted at 180 degrees F. "This thing's about as useful as a chocolate teapot." As Sam kept working, he noticed something odd. Tucked inside one of the wiring harnesses was a bundle that didn't match the standard color code. Black, black, green, black again. Sam paused. Wiring color codes were like DNA. If something doesn't match, something's hiding. He traced it deeper, pulling it gently through the conduit. At the end was a small silver box, about the size of a deck of cards, no markings, no labels, and definitely not on any of the schematics. "Hey," he called, holding it up. "One of your mystery boxes fall in here." An awkward silence followed. The youngest of the engineers, a guy who looked like he could still get carded at R-rated movies, said, That's not one of ours." Sam frowned. "So it's just been hanging out in a multi-million-dollar tank engine like a tourist." Marquez walked over, arms folded. "What are we looking at?" Sam turned the box over in his hands. Some kind of transmitter, maybe, or a deadman switch. No labels, no wires to the main system, but it's wired into the power bus. That means it feeds off the main power circuit, which means, which means someone put this here intentionally. And they didn't want it to be found. Now, that got everyone's attention. One of the German engineers said something sharp in his language. Another took a step back. Sam set the box on a nearby crate, grabbed a multimeter, and gently tested the leads. No active charge. Probably hasn't powered on in weeks. Still, he unplugged it, carefully, like defusing a bomb. "I'm gonna say something, and I need everyone to stay calm," he said slowly. Nobody breathed. This tank wasn't just broken. It was sabotaged. That word hit the hangar like a dropped wrench. "You're sure?" Marquez asked. "All business now." Sam nodded. Whoever designed this wasn't just incompetent, they were trying to make it fail. The coolant routing, dumb but survivable. This mystery box wired into the power line. That's deliberate. You don't build a kill switch by accident. One of the engineers, the clipboard guy from before, turned pale. "We went over every component. No offense," Sam said, "but if you can't spot a rogue device the size of a Pop-Tart, maybe stick to software updates." Marquez was already on her radio, barking orders for base security and internal affairs. Within minutes, the hangar became a flurry of motion. Extra guards posted. Engineers asked to stay inside. Phones quietly confiscated. Sam, for his part, kept working. Sabotage or not, he'd come to fix a tank, and the job wasn't done. By midday, he'd rerouted the cooling system using parts cannibalized from a broken Jeep, reinforced the main relay housing with scrap aluminum, and bypassed the fried circuit board with a Frankenstein combo of resistors and a salvaged power modulator that looked like it had been stolen from a microwave. "You sure this'll hold?" Marquez asked, arms crossed as she watched him solder with the calm of a man fixing a lawnmower. Sam shrugged. "Well, it won't explode, probably." Comforting. He wiped his hands on a rag, slid into the driver's seat, and turned the ignition. For a second, the tank was quiet. Then a low hum started, steady, clean, deep, like the sound of something alive waking up. Screens flickered on. Gauges lit up. No red lights, no wheezing. Sam tapped the throttle. The engine responded like a lion purring. The room burst into applause. Even the Germans clapped reluctantly. But Marquez didn't smile. "Someone tried to bury this program," she said, more to herself than anyone else. "Looks that way." "And you think it's an inside job?" "Oh, 100%. No outside saboteur could have gotten access to these systems. This was someone with clearance, someone on the team." Just then, a young soldier in fatigues ran up, holding a tablet. "Ma'am, we pulled the device logs from the tank's startup attempts. There's a signal spike on each attempt that coincides with the mystery box. It was emitting." "Emitting what?" "Some kind of low-frequency burst. Short range, encrypted." Sam stepped closer. "Could have been a ping, a beacon, maybe even data leakage." "Leakage, telemetry, system performance." "GPS," Marquez swore under her breath. So someone was tracking every failed startup, possibly feeding it to a competitor, or worse, a foreign intelligence group. The temperature in the hangar dropped about 10 degrees, and that's when the twist twisted harder. The tablet pinged again. The young soldier looked confused, then said, Ma'am, we're getting the same emission signal again, but it's not coming from the tank." Everyone froze. "It's coming from somewhere inside the hangar." It didn't take long for the mood in the hangar to shift from celebration to suspicion. Moments ago, they were clapping. Now, eyes darted, postures stiffened, and the air felt dense, not dramatic, just heavy in that real-world way, like when someone in the room knows something they shouldn't. Sam narrowed his eyes. "Where's that signal coming from exactly?" The young soldier, name tag said Harris, held up his tablet and turned in place, watching the strength bar fluctuate like an old-school game of hot and cold. He moved past the tank, past the tool racks, toward the row of desks where the engineers had set up their makeshift command center. The signal peaked. "There," he said, pointing to a half-zipped laptop bag sitting under one of the folding tables. clipboard guy who finally identified himself out loud as Greg Temple frowned. "That's mine." Two MPs moved toward the bag like it might grow legs and run. One opened it and gently pulled out a sleek, black external hard drive. Not military issue, no stickers, no serial. Marquez stepped forward. "Greg, mind explaining what this is?" Temple blinked. "It's just my personal backup. Notes, reference materials. I bring it to every contract site. Is it encrypted?" "Yes. AES 256. Harris looked up from his tablet. "That's where the signal's coming from. It's been intermittently emitting short-range bursts. Low frequency, same band as the device we found in the tank." Now everyone was looking at Temple like he'd just farted during a wedding speech. Temple raised both hands. "Hold on. I didn't know it was emitting anything. It's just a backup. I sync it at night, I swear." "Shut it down," Marquez ordered. The MPs powered it off. The tablet's signal readout immediately flatlined. Temple looked genuinely stunned. Not the guilty kind of stunned, but the "holy crap, what just happened" kind. Sam watched his face carefully. He'd seen enough interrogations to know the difference between a liar and someone whose world was crumbling in real time. Marquez stepped back and nodded to the MPs. "Take him in. I want that drive pulled apart by noon." As they led him away, Temple called out, "I didn't do anything. I don't even know how to code hardware." Sam leaned against a workbench and rubbed his temple. "That guy doesn't scream criminal mastermind to me." Marquez didn't look convinced. "Then he's either the fall guy or the dumbest mule in the smuggling game." "You're thinking espionage?" "I'm thinking we've got two devices, both transmitting similar signals, one buried in a classified military prototype and the other riding shotgun in a civilian contractor's backpack." "Yeah, I'm thinking espionage," Sam sighed. "And here I thought I came here to fix a tank, not crack a spy ring." Marquez offered the ghost of a smile. "You know how it goes. Fix one part, find three more broken." That night, Sam didn't go back to his on-base quarters. He stayed in the hangar, feet up on a crate, watching the tank like it might sneak off if left unattended. Harris had set up a perimeter sensor grid, just in case any more rogue signals decided to start talking. Around 11:43 p.m., while sipping vending machine coffee that tasted like betrayal, Sam heard a noise. Not dramatic, just a soft clank. He stood slowly. The tank was still. The hangar door was closed. Another clank. He followed the sound to a pile of crates near the far end of the bay. That's when he saw movement, a figure, crouched, digging through one of the boxes. "Hey!" Sam barked. The figure bolted. Sam chased, his limp slowing him just enough to lose ground. "Security!" he shouted, pointing. "South side, moving fast." The figure reached the door and vanished into the dark. By the time the MPs arrived, Sam was leaning on a metal beam, panting like a man 10 years older. "You okay?" One asked. "I'm fine, just didn't stretch." "Who the hell was that?" No one had an answer. But they found a clue. Near the crate where the figure had been digging sat a thin, metallic panel. On its underside, Defense Tech branding. And a label that read, "Prototype navigation chip not for production." Sam stared at it. "That's not standard issue, that's pre-prod hardware." "So someone's mixing in experimental tech without clearing it?" one MP asked. Sam shook his head. "No. Someone's building a Trojan horse from the inside." The next morning, the entire base was under silent lockdown. No press, no emails in or out. Sam got a pass to move freely only because Marquez declared him mission critical, much to the dismay of several suit-wearing security advisors who didn't like his coffee breath, his sarcasm, or his increasingly valid paranoia. Marquez paced beside him as they walked back to the tank. "We're pulling full audit logs from Defense Tech now," she said. "If someone inside the contractor is planting backdoors or hardware, we'll know soon." And Temple, clean so far. They cracked his drive. It's exactly what he said: backup files, technical references, even a grocery list. Sam chuckled. Guy didn't even delete his chili recipe before crossing state lines with government secrets. But the drive still pinged. Yeah, which means someone spoofed it or cloned its frequency to throw suspicion. Marquez stopped walking. That's deliberate misdirection. Sam nodded. Exactly. You don't leave two breadcrumbs pointing to the same guy unless you want him to get caught. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture didn't make sense yet, until later that afternoon. That's when the lab techs called. The mystery box from the tank had been dissected. And it wasn't just a transmitter, it was a loopback chip. What's that mean? Marquez asked. Sam answered before the tech could. It means it doesn't just send signals, it receives them, listens, acts on instructions. You could tell it to power down the tank, disable a system, or what? Or detonate a self-destruct if it had the payload. Marquez swore. That changed everything. This wasn't just about failed tests or faulty wiring. Someone built a device that could sabotage, spy, and potentially destroy a tank remotely, all buried inside something designed to win wars. And someone still on base had the matching signal. By the end of the day, everyone had stopped pretending it was just a technical issue. The hangar felt like a crime scene now. Extra guards, tighter badges, whispers in corners, and every laptop had a little green sticker that read, "Inspected." Even the vending machine was unplugged. Someone claimed it was emitting a weird frequency. Sam half believed them. He leaned on a metal cart near the tank, watching a pair of analysts sweep the interior again with handheld RF scanners. Boomer, his German shepherd back home, would have barked at all this activity like it was a backyard squirrel apocalypse. Sam muttered. Boomer would have sniffed this guy out on day one. "Excuse me." Harris, the young tech with the tablet, looked up. Nothing. Just thinking out loud. Harris nodded but didn't look away. There was a hesitation there. Like he wanted to say something but wasn't sure how it'd land. Sam cocked his head. "Spit it out." Harris glanced around, lowered his voice. "You ever think maybe this whole thing was supposed to happen?" Sam squinted. As in? As in the tank breaking down, the failed tests, the malfunctions. What if this was never about testing performance? What if someone needed to make it fail on paper? Why would someone want that? Harris hesitated again. Let's say a competing firm's tank model is next in line for funding, or someone upstairs wants to delay the rollout until an election cycle changes hands. That kind of thing. Sam didn't answer immediately. Not because the theory was wild, because it was way too plausible. A thought struck him like cold water. What if the tank working again isn't the win it looks like? He asked aloud. Harris blinked. Meaning? Meaning I may have just undone exactly what someone was trying to ensure, that this thing would never leave the hangar. Later that night, Marquez invited Sam to her office. One of those temporary trailers dressed up like command posts, complete with maps on walls, coffee stains on folders, and the faint smell of desperation clinging to the walls. She poured him a real drink this time. Not the vending machine syrup pretending to be coffee. Bourbon, neat. "You ever think you should have said no when I called?" she asked, sitting across from him. Sam sipped. "Only every time something new breaks." She half smiled, then handed him a file folder. Inside, photographs of the prototype tank taken over the last 6 months at various facilities. But what caught Sam's eye wasn't the tank, it was the faces in the background. "Recognize anyone?" Marquez asked. He flipped through. There were engineers, contractors, interns, brass. Most he didn't know until the 5th photo. Stop. He tapped the page. There, partially blurred in motion, was a tall man in a ball cap walking away from a test pad. No name tag, no clipboard. "Who is he?" Sam asked. Marquez took the folder back. "That's the problem. No one seems to know." He's in 4 separate site photos over the last year, different locations, different gear, but always within 20 feet of the tank. Sam's grip tightened on the glass. "That's no coincidence. And guess what?" she added. "We ran facial recognition, no matches in the DoD database. Not a contractor, not military, not even flagged as a visitor. So he's a ghost." Worse, he's a professional, Sam stood. Pull every video feed, every visitor log. I want to know what kind of coffee he drinks. But before they could dig further, things got worse. The next morning, as the base began to stir, an alarm blared across the internal PA system. Not a drill, not a test. Code gray. Hangar 2 breach. Possible explosive threat. Evacuate all non-essential personnel. Sam was already halfway there when the second alarm rang. MPs flooded the hallway, directing traffic. His tank was under lockdown again. When he arrived, the hangar was crawling with bomb techs. Red lights flashed. Drones buzzed above the roof. Marquez was already inside, arguing with a lieutenant in a bomb suit. What the hell happened? Sam asked. Marquez didn't flinch. They tried to detonate something remotely, through the same frequency band as the loopback chip. Did it work? No. Your rewiring broke the chain, but it triggered a failsafe buried deeper in the onboard system. Failsafe? A second payload, this time wired into the navigation core. They would have fried the GPS module, the targeting system, and the drive assist, basically bricked the whole thing for good. Sam shook his head. This isn't sabotage anymore. This is scorched earth insurance. The ghost in the ball cap was no amateur. This was planned, layered, patient. Whoever they were, they hadn't accounted for someone like Sam, someone who fixed things the old way. No software patch, no reboot, just hands, logic, and bull-headed grit. Later that day, they finally got a break. Harris had been combing through security logs from 3 months ago, long before Sam was called in. Most of it was routine, but one flag stood out. Sam, Harris said, running into the hangar, we found a storage bay access log that doesn't match any personnel. He handed Sam a printout. One badge ID, used at 2:37 a.m. on a Sunday. The badge belonged to a defense tech rep who had supposedly left the site the day before. They pulled up the surveillance footage. The image was grainy, but it was enough. Same ball cap, same height, moving like he belonged there. That's our guy, Sam said. And then the biggest twist dropped. Harris said, Sir, I think I know who he is. They stared. I interned at Defense Tech 2 summers ago, worked on a small team in R&D. Our lead engineer wasn't on paper, just came in with a badge and a nickname. Everyone called him Sawyer, just Sawyer, Marquez frowned. That sounds made up. It was, that's the point. He was the one you called when something needed to quietly disappear. You're saying he's a fixer. I'm saying he's the opposite of Sam. He doesn't fix things. He breaks them surgically. Sam stared out the window at the tank, sitting quiet and alive in the sun. For the first time, he realized something chilling. This wasn't about that one tank. It was about every tank. If Sawyer had planted loopbacks, ghost modules, remote exploits, and Defense Tech was planning to roll out an entire fleet, that meant the military was about to adopt a line of vehicles already compromised from the inside. Sam turned to Marquez. We need to shut the whole project down. Now. The decision wasn't easy. Shutting down the project meant halting over $1 billion in contracts, freezing deployments, and possibly waking up the Pentagon hornet's nest. But Marquez didn't hesitate. Pull every tank off active testing. I want all units isolated. No network uplinks. Nothing. Her voice cut through the command center like a blade. Sam stood behind her, arms crossed. And get your people ready for blowback. Because if this guy Sawyer's who Harris says he is, he's not going to slink off quietly. You think he's still here? Sam nodded. He knows we're onto him. That means he either bolts or he finishes the job. Over the next few hours, the base became a fortress, internal comms only. Surveillance scans every 20 minutes. Anyone trying to leave got a full check, personnel, contractors, even MPs. Sam never left the hangar. He refused. That tank had become more than a job. It was a statement. You realize, Harris said at one point, you've kind of become the tank's guardian. Sam grunted. Yeah, well, the damn thing owes me rent. At 2:42 a.m. On the last scheduled sweep before lockdown eased, someone noticed a missing security feed. Just one. Camera 19. A loading bay at the back of the compound, blind for exactly 7 minutes. That was all it took. By the time the alert hit the board, a delivery van was already halfway across the tarmac, ID tagged as supply transfer. At first glance, legit. But Harris flagged something. It was on the schedule for the next day. Scramble intercept, Marquez barked. Right now. Sam didn't wait. He was already moving, wrench in hand, like it was war again. The MPs caught up to the van just before the main exit gate. Lights. Guns drawn. A tense standoff until the driver stepped out slowly, hands raised, cap low, no sudden moves. Sawyer. Up close, he didn't look like a saboteur. He looked like a guy you'd bump into at a gas station. Thin, clean-shaven, a little pale. Boring. That was the point. Marquez arrived minutes later, Sam beside her. Sawyer gave them a calm look, the kind that didn't apologize, didn't gloat, just existed. Bit late for a grocery run, Sam said, staring him down. Sawyer smiled faintly. You're the wrench guy, and you're the parasite. The MPs hauled him to holding, and the van was stripped. No bombs, no weapons. But inside the lining of the driver's seat, they found another transmitter, this one more advanced than the last. Active. Hot. He was going to trigger a failsafe, Harris said, looking pale. A full data dump, kill switch, probably linked to the tank or worse, the prototype database itself. Marquez ordered the van impounded and the database unplugged, air-gapped. Then she turned to Sam. We got him. But how many Sawyers do you think we missed over the years? Sam exhaled. Too many, because everyone thinks you need a massive breach. But all it takes is a normal guy who knows where to tug. Over the next 3 days, the pieces started falling into place. Internal audits at Defense Tech uncovered falsified component logs. Shell companies billing for consulting with no deliverables. And worst of all, loopback modules like the one Sam pulled, already embedded in 7 other prototype vehicles across different bases. The program was put on indefinite hold. Congress launched an oversight committee. Defense Tech's board began a long, awkward firing spree, and Sam. He packed up his toolbox and walked out of the hangar on a Monday morning, the sun barely up, the tank now quiet but intact behind him. Fixed. Real. No ghosts in the wires. As he stepped off the base, Marquez walked with him. You know, she said, you saved a fleet, maybe even lives. He shrugged. I just hate when expensive things don't work. She laughed. You still fixing that truck of yours every week, and it still runs. She nodded, then offered a small black case. Inside, a Defense Department commendation plaque. Nothing fancy, no ceremony, just the kind of thanks that counted. Come back anytime, she said. Sam tapped the plaque, then closed the case. Let's hope you don't need me. She held his gaze for a second longer, then nodded and walked back toward the compound. Sam headed to the parking lot where an old pickup, his, flown in at Marquez's request, waited. He opened the door, tossed the case into the passenger seat, and sat down. The seatbelt light blinked at him. He ignored it. The engine started on the second try. As he pulled away, a voice buzzed from the radio. Harris. Sam, you copy. Sam clicked the receiver. Go ahead. Just wanted to say thanks. You kind of blew my mind this week. Sam chuckled. You're young. You'll recover. A pause. Then Harris said, You think Sawyer acted alone? Sam's smile faded. No, he was just the one with the nerve to be seen. But don't worry. He glanced at the side mirror, the base getting smaller behind him. They'll show themselves. And when they do, make sure someone's around who remembers how to turn a wrench. Click. He turned the radio off, rolled down the window. The desert wind whipped in. For the first time in a long while, Sam Myers felt like something was fixed for good, not perfectly, not forever, but solid enough to hold, at least until someone tried breaking it again. And when they did, well, they'd know better than to underestimate a tired old veteran with a wrench and no patience for sabotage.